Welcome to our Portuguese Table podcast. I'm Maria Lawton, the Azorean Green Bean.
And I'm Angela Simoes, and we're just two chicks dishing about Portuguese food, culture, and what it means to be Portuguese.
So grab a glass of vinho or un copo de café and join us as we talk about our favorite foods, reminisce about growing up Portuguese,
and interview some of our community's most successful chefs and food writers.
So sit down at our Portuguese table.
Hey, Maria, how's it going?
Oh, going well, Angela.
Good.
I'm really excited about today and our guests who we have on. We have Joey Bat Sweets. This is going to be an exciting podcast.
It will be. And so I'll just tell our listeners, we're doing a little bit of a preface. It's a little non-traditional setup today because, as you will discover, Joey's a talker. And before we got a chance to do our intro and everything, we just ran with it. And so we just kept going and had a great conversation. He's a super guy. Yes. We know that you guys are going to love this podcast. But anyway, wanted to do an official introduction of who he is. So it's Joey Batista, of Joey Bat Sweets. Go on to Facebook, go onto his website and check him out. But that's who we're talking to today. Yes. And so without further ado,
here it is.
Well, so I just want to make sure I get the name of everything. So Joey's your first name. What's your last name?
So my official name is Joseph Pedro Fernandes Batista.
Okay, but I don't think anybody calls you that, right?
No, but nobody calls me that, not for as long as I can remember, because I was the youngest of, there's a lot of Joes in my family. So because at the time I was, the first one, I was the first kid, the first one that made my grandparents kind of thing. They started calling me Joey. And it kind of stuck with me, ever since. I literally have never been called Joseph unless it's like.
Well, we could call you Joseph today. I mean, we could.
Really want, yeah. But Joey, I like Joey. I have a cousin. Joey,
well,
so we're good.
Here it's always Joey, and in Portugal they usually call me José Pedro, which I'm totally fine with as well too. So.
Yes, you've got to do the two names when you're in Portugal. Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Because there's so many Josés. I mean, there's so many of them. So,
Pedro, so many.
I was hoping you were going to say they call you Joey.
Well, no. So my grandmother, she doesn't ever say Joey. She just says Ojo, vem cá, Ojo, como estás? It's just a half. It's the
my
show.
God, that's hysterical.
That's awesome. And it's in your company. Well, I know the name of your restaurant is Joey Bat's Sweets, right?
Right. And it's not actually a restaurant. This all kind of started pretty weird in a sense. So like I mentioned earlier that I worked I was an IT engineer for several years, about 11 years to be exact. Moved over to sales engineering after moving to New York 5 years ago. And then I was, before I left to do this full time, I was working for a tech startup out of Porto called Benium, which was really exciting.
Hello, Benium.
Yep. So I was doing business development here in New York, but I got to a point where all I could think about was, how can I sell more natas? What can I do? But the way it started was my uncles have a restaurant in Ludlow, Massachusetts, where I'm from, and it's called Call Me Call It, right? Because it's a joke around the table growing up. Like, what is this? Like, call me call it.
Scott, that means eat and shut up.
Yeah, you shut up, right? So several years ago,
listening to this right now, it means eat and shut up.
Yeah,
exactly. So several years ago, we used to joke, and I had the benefit. It was a blessing to be able to have lunch every day with my uncles and my grandparents, my mother, and my sisters, and things like that on a daily basis. So we used to always joke around and call me call it. And then, my uncles worked in construction, so they'd bring in their coworkers, and before you know it, a Tuesday lunch could have 15 people, and it would regularly get out of hand. But somehow my mother always had plenty of food for everybody, right? So that's kind of how it started. And then I bought the domain name thinking someday we'd have the restaurant. Fast forward 2.5 years ago, my uncles bought the old Monte Alegre, and open Call Me Call It, still open to this day. But my mother, who's the genius around all the food and recipes, she was making all the desserts for the restaurant. And one of them in particular that sold like hotcakes, and still does, is called the bolo de bolacha, right? Pretty standard Portuguese dessert.
Yeah, I love that one.
Right. So And I was thinking, I had always thinking like I had to do something different here in New York. You know, I have all this potential around me, business is booming. Like, what can I do? You know, and I was like, you know, if we're selling a lot of bolo de bolacha to Portuguese people, it's got to be good, right? If you're selling cannolis to Italians and they're buying them like crazy, then you know it's a good cannoli.
That's right.
So, right. So before my trip back to New York, once I had my mother make me a full cake, and I drove it down with me, brought it to a cafe, an Israeli cafe called Spiegel, on the corner of 2nd Street and 1st Avenue near where I live. And I brought it in and I said, hey, pass it out to all the regulars and just, you know, let's see what the result is, you know, the feedback. Well, I literally had to learn how to make the darn, you know, cake that week. I mean, my mother gave me the recipe. It took me a few tries, but I finally got it to what I would say, you know, up to snuff.
Nice.
And, you know, I just kind of started like that. If you look at my old Instagram photos, you know, I was making cakes and selling them to different restaurants around the city. And then I decided to put them in little, like to-go cups that are popular. Like you get a yogurt parfait in the bodegas here in the corner, or the little convenience shops. So I started selling them to those. And then I was like, and all this was happening at the end of, towards the middle end of 2016. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to really start, you know, making this, you know, taking this seriously, we need to start doing other desserts, and obviously the most popular one, because if you go to Portugal, you're 100% going to have a pastel de nata. So we started doing that, and I was doing them at little fairs here and there. I have some pictures where I was standing in the middle of freezing cold down in the financial district. I sold like 20 natas, and I'd be out there for 6 or 7 hours. And, you know, feedback was good, but like there wasn't, they weren't like, if I was describing them as Portuguese pastry and egg custard, and it wasn't attractive sounding. So I decided to change the way I describe it to the Americans, and that would be, imagine a warm creme brulee wrapped in a flaky croissant.
Oh.
And it was head over heels different. Everybody was like, "Oh, I got to try that. I got to try that."
So,
like I said, we went from selling, you know, maybe 20, 30 of them on the street to selling, you know, I think I sold like 3,000 of them in Mineola, my first festival, Portuguese festival, in one day.
Oh my God.
Which was great. And, you know, we have them pre-baked and flash frozen. So they're kept frozen good for up to a year.
Wow.
The beauty, and just kind of to give you a little, and I can give you a little background into all the festas we did and, you know, how well we did and things like that. But it's important to me, not only that, to keep things very authentic in Portuguese, to promote the Portuguese culture and the way that I was raised, and, you know, you guys were raised, is it's the pride thing. And I like love hearing stories about like the Azorean Green Bean and the Portuguese kids and all this stuff. And there's not enough exposure in the American market outside the Portuguese communities. So the objective from the get-go was to try and get this thing sold everywhere, not just in Newark or in Fall River or in Ludlow or in Milford. It's great that it's been well received, but I'm going to keep pushing because I want to sell it everywhere else. So that's kind of how this all started. And I only realized that, you know, it could be a full-time thing after that Mineola Festa, when I was like, all right, wait, we are really, this could be something.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
By the way, guys, I can talk your ear off, so you got to cut me off.
Yeah, I was going to say that moment, I mean, in selling 3,000 queijadas de nata in one day is absolutely the light bulb goes off and goes, hey, I think I've hit something.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, we weren't prepared. I think I brought like a couple hundred thinking, you know, it's Portuguese and, you know, they'll buy like a dozen at a time. And so I think I had originally brought like 500 or 600 of them. And then I had to send my mom home to where we have our freezers where we keep the stock. And, you know, I told her like bring more. Bring a lot more. You know, we have a freezer to keep them frozen. Let's just see what happens. Worst case, we take them back with us. And it was incredible. And then it was just like, after that, it was like the light turning on. You know, like every fair we were going to, we were selling at least, non-Portuguese fairs, you're selling at least 500 of them. Some of them, you know, like Bryant Park, we'd sell 500, 600 of them. Knowing it was nice, but it was all about exposure to the American, to the non-Portuguese market, which is what I really want to try and get to. And I think that we can do it.
And you know what? You know, Joey, I think that's the key thing right there, what you're saying.
Right.
You're absolutely right. You know, we know in our community that this is what we know, this is what we have. But the key thing is to get it out of our community into the non-Portuguese hands so that they can all of a sudden say, hey, what is this all about?
Right.
What do you mean Portugal? Oh, I never thought of Portugal. I've never had a Portuguese pastry before. So if this is this good, what else is good? You know, and it's a key into it. A key into opening that door.
I mean, we have so many amazing products. Like, you know, when I think of going back home, like back to Portugal, like I after a night out, 4 or 5 in the morning, and I can just walk into the bakery and have fresh this, fresh that, some fresh bread with cheese in it, and like I don't know, it's just like that. There's so many products that we have that have literally no exposure to the American public unless you're Americans being raised or live in near a Portuguese neighborhood. Right. Aside from that, you're not going to know any of this stuff. Like I get people come in all the time. What is this? Well, what are you guys selling? And I, you know, I pitch it to them just like I mentioned it to you guys. And once I sell it, I explain it to that way. They have a bite. And then I know that once they have a bite, they're locked. That's it. Now I can lay it on them. I can say, this is, you know, a world famous Portuguese pastry, you know, created in the early 1800s at the Jerónimos Monastery, blah, blah, blah. And it's egg custard. And, you know, it's also Chinese egg tarts are a derivative of our pastel nata. And, you know, really educating them. So they leave there with a sense of, wow, I just, you know, had a great pastry, but I also got a little history lesson.
So,
and, you know, it was one thing I didn't get to mention that I think that, and I might be jumping forward here, but this is something that's really important to me, and I think it's been a game changer for us. Is that I'm sorry, guys. I'm also dealing with. I'm like sitting in the car out front of the cafe. This is New York parking for you. I have to keep moving the car here.
Yeah. I've been towed in New York, so I feel your pain.
Right. So, okay. So what I was going to say was, I think it's really common. So before I started even shipping them across the country, I was like, let me see what other bakeries are doing if they're already shipping them. And I found a couple bakeries, had them shipped to me. But what I found is that the experience wasn't what it should be if we're trying to impress people that don't know anything about Portugal or anything like that. Like, you know, they're baking. I worked at a bakery, my first job. I know that they're baking those pastéis probably like 3 or 4 in the morning. And then you're probably eating them like 8 or 9 o'clock, which is fine. Room temperature, no problem. They're still fresh. But there's nothing, when it comes to baked products, in my opinion, there's nothing better than a piece of bread that's just been out of the oven, a cookie that just got baked, or whatever it is. That, you know, that experience is what I wanted to kind of preserve, and it's important to me. So by keeping them frozen, shipping them to you frozen with the baking instructions on the box, I know that when you eat them, they will have just came out of the oven, or at least I'd like to think they did. I wholesale them to restaurants, and I make it a point like, all right, guys, here's the instructions. I want them done on demand. I don't want you to be serving them. They were baked like 3 hours ago. If you want to sell them, and if you're going to have my name on them, or people are going to think of no of them as mine, it's got to be this way all the time. So if you go to Ipanema restaurant, which is my best customer in New York, you order them on the menu, they bake them on the spot. So you're always getting a nice, warm, crispy pastel nata. And it's the same at my street fairs, wholesale, all across the board, because that is, you know, it's important for me, because I think that we serve it to them that way, that premium experience, and this is just going to roll, I mean, across the country. That's the way I look at this. That's how I feel about it.
Well, you bring up a great point, because so when my husband and I got married, we wanted to have pastéis nata at our wedding, and there was only one place in California that made them the way that we liked them in Portugal, mainland style, with like the mil folhas, and you know that we could get queijadas, which are just as, you know, they're good as well, but we really wanted the pastéis nata.
Right.
And so we did a test ship from this place in LA, and you know, no offense to them, it was natas pastries. We loved their natas. We loved their food, everything. But we did a test ship, and they arrived just completely topsy-turvy.
Right.
And we thought, no way, if we're going to order like 200 of these things, there's just no way that we could do that and have it be presentable. So we had my husband's family they're from New Jersey. And when they flew over, they picked up frozen natas from the bakery and hand carried them as carry-on luggage on the flight and brought them over. And so I totally feel your pain when trying to figure out how do you get the product to people so that it arrives in a state that they'll still be able to have that experience. So I think the way that you've approached it is pretty brilliant, actually.
Right. And it works really well with the packaging we're using, which is the same packaging they use all over Portugal. You know, the hexagon box, the sleeve that fits 6. They have some places now that just do 2, like Mantequilla does that as well. And it keeps them very sturdy. You can drop it, flip it over. They don't move inside because they sit face to face when they go in. And when they're frozen, they're not, I mean, they're literally bulletproof, right? So the ones I got through my shipment, and I'm not going to name any, and I don't even remember the name. It was already like 3 years ago anyways, but they came in like generic, the plastic containers, like muffin containers, and they were bounced around. And they were basically 3-day-old natas. How is that acceptable? It really killed me. I'm like, we need to make this better. So I looked at other things like how are people sending like cookies, frozen cookies and cupcakes and things like that. So I found a good foil insert, so the ice bricks and things like that. And I sent out a bunch of test shipments to California, Chicago, Michigan, Florida. And, you know, I add the bricks based on where they're going. So if it's going somewhere warmer, I double them up. The good thing is the Prestige don't have to get there frozen solid. They've already been baked, pre-baked. They just have to not, you know, thaw completely. So they arrive, and I said some places they're getting them frozen. Some places they're starting to thaw. Either way, they're still great. You throw them in the oven. Everybody gives me 5-star reviews, and I'm happy with the way it's going. And hopefully we can do the same, you know, with the Portuguese kids. That's the objective, and they're super pumped. And I love this collaboration.
Yeah. Before we started recording, Joey and I were talking, and just so we have full disclosure here. So last week I had a meeting with the Portuguese kids. So I was at their office and we were just, you know, finishing up what we were doing. And they asked me, they said, have you had the Joey Bat sweets there, the natas? Because we've just put some in the oven and we'd love to have you try it because we're going to be carrying it on their online store. And so I'm like, okay, now I've got to wait. So I am waiting for these sweets to come out of the oven, and the office just smells amazing. And so then, you know, Al, I think it was Al goes back in the kitchen and he gets the natas, puts them on the plate, and they're piping hot. And he's like, oh, the only thing is we don't have any cinnamon, you know, to put some cinnamon over it. So we had to wait till they kind of cooled off a little because they had just come out of the oven. And so they're like, well, they started showing me the packaging. So the packaging is that cylinder, like you would if you were in Portugal and you got your pastéis de nata in it. And it has beautiful design on the outside. So the packaging, whoever did your packaging, Joey, they did a great job.
My good friend Chris did an excellent job.
Oh, it came out beautiful. So then I think it was Derek who tested it out first to see if we could eat it. And so we're all like, have it in our hand, we're blowing on it, the whole thing. And let me tell you, folks, it was incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I bit into it, and there was a crunch, which, you know, when you go and you buy your queijadas de nata in bakeries and stuff, you know, unless it's being like freshly done and all that, you're not going to get that crunch.
Yeah.
So it was, oh my God, it was crunch. And then, that smooth, sweet, and it wasn't over sweet. It was perfect. So of course now they're looking at me like, what do you think? And I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And they're like, oh my God, you know, because they're so excited that they're going to be selling it.
Me too. You know, I love the guys. I met them for the first time a few weeks ago. Well, we met in Bridgeport, but it was they were busy and I was busy at the festival there setting up. And but then when they were in Mineola, it was funny because they had just went to we had breakfast at my friend's house, Liliana and her mom, and she cooked for us. And she asked, Joe, you should come by and bring some of your natas. So I came over, we baked them right there in the spot. I got to really get to know the guys. You know, they literally remind me of my best friends growing up back home. You know,
they're good guys. They're real good guys.
Portuguese kids and all the jokes. So, you know, all the little things you remember about, like the way your mom spoke to you, your grandparents. I love that. So they got to try the natas and they were like, whoa. And then they ended up taking the rest of them. And that's when we really got to chum it up, which is great. And then after that, I was like, man, we should totally hang up. You should come visit me in New York. We'll go out a couple nights. That I'm a night guy. I'm like a vampire down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and then Derek reached out maybe a week ago, and he had the idea, and I was like, "This is genius. This is genius."
Yeah.
And we even talked about possibly even setting up at some of their events, and baking them right there.
Oh wow, that's that.
That'd be amazing.
Let me tell you, the whole experience is not only just actually having to eat and enjoy it. It's the smell. The smell brings you in, because it was incredible. It was really good.
It's funny you say that. Let me give you an insight on the tricks that. So, have you guys ever heard of the San Gennaro feast in Little Italy in New York City?
No.
It's possibly the largest one in the country. They get 1 million people over 11 days.
Oh, Italy!
Tiny little road.
Yes.
No, not Italy. Italy is a restaurant owned by Mario Batali.
Right. So
Little Italy is at the southern, right next door to Soho, that section of downtown New York, and it's a fest that's every year, 11 days, and they close off this tiny little street, and they have 1 million people pass through there. And you got guys like Tony Danza. He runs a sausage booth and things like that. So this year, or September, was the first time in 92 years that they had Portuguese food there. So we set up our booth. My mom and I, we're veterans at this now. But the tricks that we had so the banner is one thing, right? But what I did was I set up 2 ovens behind us. And we made sure that we divided the baking up between the 2 ovens. So we always had something baking. On top of the oven, you guys know those floor dryers? It's a very concentrated blow direction.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
it looks like a big whistle.
I do. That's
hard. So I put one on top of each oven. And not only that, because the walkway that they have is about 12 feet. It's really skinny. And when that place is jamming, it is nuts. People are nonstop, but you're getting them for about 5 seconds as they crawl in front of you. So we have the smell going out there, but it's not just that. We learned a way on how to get the smell to be stronger, more potent. You break open a few natas to expose the cream. You just smush it onto the platter, and you sprinkle cinnamon on the custard and put it back in the oven. Let me tell you guys, the smell is 10 to 20 fold. It is so much stronger. And then people are walking by and saying, "What the hell is that smell?" It's like a cloud.
Wow.
And then they're looking up. It was always the same. I mean, literally, it's rinse and repeat. They're looking up at the banner, and I have a light pointing directly at the quote. Imagine a creme brulee wrapped in a flaky croissant.
Yeah.
And they're reading that, and you can see their faces. They're just like, "Oh, I got to try that. I'm going to go have some sausage. We're going to come back here."
Yeah.
And then when they come back, or if they walk up to the booth at that moment, I then have samples to give them. We cut each pastel into 8 little pieces, and then we bake them that way.
Oh, wow.
And then toothpicks in each one. That's how I give them a sample. So that's basically the cost of customer acquisition for us.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going nuts. They're taking a dozen, a half dozen at a time. And, it's not like, you don't buy a dozen croissants, right?
Right.
You buy a dozen pastés, though.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth? And what you've done now, you've permanently marked that scent
in their brain.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that it's that food memory, and that is in there. That is, so now when they smell that, they automatically, get that feeling of, "Oh, I have to have one." It just,
right.
It really is. Awesome.
You're hitting the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
And we were also partnering up with, I really wanted to keep it Portuguese. So now I'm using Delta Coffee in all of our events. And they're actually giving me a new commercial machine they have that takes capsules. But I can also do, and it's not like the one you could buy to take it home, where it does one coffee at a time. This is like a 2-group, full-on stainless steel with the frother. So now, at every event, I'll not only do natas and bolash and all this stuff, but I'll actually be able to do the full slew of coffee products with Portugal's best coffee, which I am honored to sit there and be like, this is our number 1 coffee in Portugal, and give them the spiel on that too. So
you can start little espressos.
Right. And do you know that Delta is not available anywhere north of New York?
Really?
There's no Delta. I don't know. So Delta has exclusive contracts with Triunfo and Ciabras down here. So all of their stuff has to go through there. But they have no, you can't go to the Portuguese club or the restaurant, any restaurant or pastry shop near you with a Delta coffee. It's all the other brands. But Delta is the number 1 brand out of Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
They're in 30-something countries.
That makes no sense.
I wonder why.
I completely agree. And let me tell you, the coffee is delicious.
Yeah.
The coffee is
we
fantastic.
love Delta. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, not giving too much away, but I am working on, I told him, I was like, I mean, if I wasn't working for myself, I'd probably become a Delta sales guy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because there's so much potential. I mean, I tell the guy, it's easy. Everybody Portuguese knows the brand that's been on, in Portugal. So,
and not only that, we have so many Portuguese distributors throughout all the East Coast and West Coast. What the heck is going on with them?
I don't know. I think the thing is more, it's one thing to sell something. It's another to maintain it.
Yeah.
So they need to partner up or find some people who can help them with the, the maintenance of the machines as, things happen or anything has to be done on them. They only have guys down here, and it doesn't really make sense for them to be going back and forth from Fall River to here, New Bedford to here. So they need to partner up with somebody that does this kind of stuff up there to be able to spread the Delta love,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to be bringing the Delta machine with me to every festival.
Nice.
Up in Massachusetts too. So
nice.
You know what I love about what you're doing is like you're kind of exporting the cafe culture that's in Portugal, right? And when we kind of talked about this with Jessica from Tia Maria's European Cafe in New Bedford, just that whole environment that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. I mean, maybe Italy, I think, but just being able to hang out on the Esplanada, you have a coffee, you have a pastel or your bolo of something, and you just sit and enjoy the scenery, the people walking by, the company of friends. I mean, it's like, it's just not something that you can find. And, I guess it's been tried to be replicated here in the States in some places, but it's just not the same because there's still that hustle and bustle, right? There's just not that relaxed, enjoy your time mentality that you get when you're in Portugal.
It's funny where you're hitting the nail right on the head. Like, even back home in Ludlow, when I go see family or my friends, it's always like, hey, let's go have a cafe. And it's really just like, hey, let's go hang out, chat, and get, catch up. It's like, let's go hang out. It's not, maybe here they come and be like, let's go have a beer. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. No, I love it. I really love it. Well, and let me tell you, everybody that I talk to or that we talk to on this podcast that's, East Coast based, has a restaurant, has a cafe, has a whatever that's so delicious and wonderful. And then I just sit here in California and say, we need more of it.
It's a huge untapped market.
Yeah. So when you're ready to come out here, Joey, you let me know.
You guys will be the first to know. Absolutely. Well, we opened, to give you guys some updates, and I'm sure you know some of it, but as you know, I did all the street fairs and whatnot. But then this year, recently, we opened Frankie Portugal Cafe here in New York, and that is a little a joint venture with the Tao Group and Artichoke Pizza guys. That, if you're familiar with this block, they have this big artichoke pizza spot here, and then there's us, the cafe, and then there's One Oak nightclub, which is probably the best nightclub in the city. So what happened was I was scrambling to find a place to sell the natas during the winter because there was no street fairs. And they had a space here. I reached out to my friend Mike, who works. He's one of the I think he's chief marketing officer for the company Artichoke Pizza. And he sees on Facebook all the pictures that are getting shared around of me and the prestige, what I'm doing. So he introduced me to Francis Garcia, who, crazy enough, is the grandson of the first Portuguese attorney in New York City, right? Francisco Garcia was the first attorney. He was well known in the community. He used to be president of the social club here in Soho when that existed, when there was a Portuguese community there.
Okay.
So he was really well known at that time. And then his son, also Francis, was half Portuguese, half Sicilian, and they were living in Staten Island, and that's where it was a predominantly Italian neighborhood, so they called him Frankie Portugal as a nickname. So Francis, who also is another Francis Garcia, he's the one who told me, he's like, well, I've been wanting to do coffee there anyways. I know Prestige, I love Prestige. Let's do it together. So that's how this cafe started. We opened December 11th, and it's really been kind of like a test to see if it has legs and see what's going on. But I'll tell you, the thing we sell the most of here, natas.
Really?
Well, I told them right from the get-go, guys, this is what other pastry would you open up a shop? You're not going to open up a shop and sell a dozen croissants to people. You're going to sell a dozen for save. So we've got people that buy 80. Google bought 80 the other day. We had a lady 3 dozen this morning. Like, they sell like hotcakes, and we're just getting started.
Wow. Now, of course, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking all these people that you need to make sure you know and have you and where you need to get it into here in the West Coast besides selling it online. Yeah, we'll probably.
I mean, I thought the only real issue is like distribution. Is how do I get it over there in a costly, in a cost-effective manner? And it's going to have to be in sizable amounts, like by a pallet. It's the only way I think that would be able to work. It's not impossible. It's just it may still be early days since we only started doing this like 7 months ago. Realistically.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what your timeline was. So you sort of talked about your path, that you were in IT and then kind of how that all evolved. But what's been your timeline? Like, when did you actually start? And then I also wanted to ask you about if you ever considered a food truck, because I don't know about out there, but here in California, especially in the Bay Area, food trucks were all the rage for the longest time, and still are to an extent. I think they're losing their novelty a little bit. But did you ever consider a food truck to kind of take you all to all these different places? So yeah, timeline and food truck.
Right. So to answer both questions, I worked. So I'm from Western Massachusetts, small town, Ludlow, predominantly Portuguese. I was working in IT for a finance company up until I was 31. And shortly after, it was in 2013 that I moved to New York. And so that meant I had been working there already for 11 years in IT. Then I moved to sales engineering for 3 years here in New York City, bounced around to 2 different companies. I had a lot of fun doing that. Eventually being recruited to Venium, which was done. So rewind to June of 2016 is when I officially created Joey Bats LLC, which, by the way, is the nickname they gave me when I moved to New York, guys. Joey Batista, they call me Joey Bats. It's stuck. What can I say? It works well here. The whole Italian American, comparison. That was in June of 2016, and I still wasn't really doing much with it. It was just like, let me register this business and see what happens. And then I started with the cakes. And then I started working at Venium in February of 2017. And it was shortly after that I started really kicking it up with the Prestige at Portugal and Soho event, Hester Street Fair. Dias Portugal, as you know, first week of June, that was Mineola. And that's when I really said, all right, now I can do this full time. And then I left Venium early July. And I basically signed up for every fair that I could think of. Like any fair that I knew of. Festival, we did Ludlow, we did Mineola, we did Bridgeport, Connecticut, Waterbury, Connecticut, New Bedford, Mass, which I loved. That was great. I had so much fun. So many molasadas. I had so many molasadas and Madeira wine. It was great.
Oh, so are you going to be at the Madeira Feast this year?
Oh, absolutely. I want to get a bigger tent this year. I want to sell Delta coffee. I want to have the full slew of products there.
Awesome. I don't know which day I'm going to be on, but I'm going to be there also. I haven't even talked to the Portuguese kids. I thought it'd be really cool if they set up a stand selling their stuff. The different products they have. Yeah. Maybe we can do it together. It could be like a joint collaboration, Yeah.
I had wanted to do Fall River, but Fall River didn't allow outside vendors into the festival.
Oh, really?
And
you had to be based in Fall River?
I wasn't sure. I think it was only, unless I didn't know any better, but the way I understood it is that only the club or whoever was running the festival, they handled all the food, and that was basically it.
Oh.
In which case I did offer, I could wholesale them to you guys, and you guys could bake them and sell them there yourself. But it was the first year. I can expect everyone to say yes. Hartford, we couldn't sell them there. I think because there was some opposing bakeries there that didn't really want us to be selling them there. It's too bad. I danced in the Rancho for Hartford 2 or 3 years. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, we stayed really busy, and then we finished with San Gennaro, and we did the Queen's Night Market every Saturday night. I'll continue to do that. It's a fabulous night market, 6 to midnight every Saturday night, beginning in April all the way to the end of October. Very diverse and products. Oh, but getting back to the food truck thing, yes. The food truck thing works really much better outside New York. It is really expensive to do that here. The cheapest part and the easiest part is the truck, right? They don't give out permits like that, it's kind of like getting an alcohol license back home. Like there's a set amount in the city, and you have to buy from somebody else that already has one. So here, guys, these people hold the permit, and then you'll lease the permit from them. So they might be paying a few $100s annually for a permit, and then they it's like paying rent. You're paying like $4,000 a month, just to be able to operate a food truck. It's really crazy. It's really nuts. So to be honest with you, it is way cheaper, more cost effective to do the booths. You have your temporary food establishment permits and things like that. And, it's a little more work. You got to set up the booth, but, you set up an affair, you could be there all day. They might charge you $200. So it's no comparison.
That's a no-brainer. That's definitely a no-brainer.
However, having said all that, I am going to need a van soon, and I'm purposely going to buy one of those tall, large vans so that I can have a window to sell from the van, because at Ludlow Festa, there's no real thing that says you have to be a food truck or a booth. So I can pull up to the same spot and sell direct from the truck, and it's just easier to manage. No cleaning up at the end of the festival or anything like that.
I was kind of thinking too, just in terms of all the equipment and ingredients you have to take, and then the setup and then cooking. I was just wondering if, at some point.
Well, the good thing is, Angela, is because remember, they're pre-baked and flash frozen. So when it comes to upkeep, we really just keep them frozen in freezers.
Oh, got it. Yeah. So you're not really cooking there on site.
Exactly,
Yeah. Got it.
Exactly. So like for New Bedford, I rented a freezer trailer, and I took 8,000 of them with me. We only sold 4, but it was pretty darn good for our first attempt there.
Wow.
And,
now, is your mom? Is your mom? I don't mean to cut you off, honey, but just so
that's fine.
We know. I know your mom was the one who worked with you on the recipe and all of that stuff. Has she, including? First of all, the cake, the boule, and then the queijada de nata. And now, is she working with you on other Portuguese desserts, or is this where you're going to stay with, or are you going to branch out to different ones?
Well, the natas are allowing us to expand. And we don't make them anymore. It's a factory that makes them.
Oh.
This is how we're able to scale. Yeah, we have a factory making. We're probably going to have the factory make the Bolsblasha and the Serradura, Bala Camelo, not just the cell.
Wow, so you're really expanding.
Right. And you know what? Like I said, it's easier for us to do the focus on the natas because it's something that's very well known and easy to sell. And now that we've perfected, like when you said how much work it is to set up a booth, and my mother and I, just 2 people, and we can handle thousands or selling thousands of these because we've gotten it to a way where it's just easy to keep them warm and, bust them out. Boom. Yeah, 2. I'll take 2. I'll take 5. I'll take 6. Boom, boom, boom. They're already warm, ready to go. We just sprinkle cinnamon and sugar on them and they're good. So we've got that very efficient. But to grow to new recipes, that's where things get a little trickier if they're not maintained the same way. Like if we can't keep them frozen. Luckily, some can, like the Bolsblasha and the Serradura can be kept frozen. And, you would never know the difference. It tastes fantastic. When we freeze the cream and then assemble the cakes after defrost and things like that. So everything has been good. It's just about now expanding a little bit. But I want to do a little more damage with the natas first and have that. I know, poor choice of words.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's always good to want more. And I don't see anything wrong with it. And I think, Angela, both of us all agree on that. And, I just went on while we were talking, I went on to Facebook. So I'm now on the Joey Bat Sweets Facebook page. And for those of you that are hearing us, and please go on his page and like it, because you know what? It's really, really neat to see the stuff that you're doing. And I just read something here. Natas delivered in NYC. You're delivering natas to your door, people's door?
We were doing that for some time when I had a setup at the booth in Broadway and Broome, and we're about to start doing it again. So there's been a break where we weren't.
Yeah.
The thing is, we have a lot of food apps here called like Grubhub, Seamless, Postmates, Uber Eats.
I'm just thinking the thought of being home now and having some nice freshly baked natas being delivered to my home sounds amazing right now. Oh my God.
Well, I'll tell you what, in Manhattan, basically everything can be delivered to your door. Your laundry, your food. I mean, you want cookies, you want McDonald's, they'll bring it right to your door.
Wow.
So I had to capitalize on that when we were at Broadway and Broome in that little market there. I signed up for all those, app deliveries, and they worked well. But then we moved here to Frankie, Portugal, and I'm literally probably another week or two will enable that offering again. So people will be able to order them, and you'll get warm natas delivered to your door. And I think that's fantastic, right? Making it as easy as, a couple buttons press a few buttons on your phone, and you got them right to your door.
Yeah,
So.
how awesome. So the place, the establishment, if they're going to New York, Joey, and they want to go to the shop you have, it's called Frankie Portugal, correct?
Today it's Frankie Portugal, yeah.
Okay. And where is it located, just so people know?
We are located at 457 West 17th Street. It's a cafe right in between the big artichoke pizza, right on the corner, and the other side is One Oak nightclub. So this area gets really busy, guys, between 11 p.m. and 5 in the morning. It's actually pretty ridiculous how many people are on the block at that time.
Mm-hmm.
If they're all at the nightclub.
Yeah, I believe it.
Last weekend was a Grammy weekend here in New York, and so we were open from 11 till 5. And that we have to. There's a hard stop at 5 a.m. But at the Artichoke Pizza next door, they had a line that wrapped around the building. There had to be at least 100 people in line to get a slice. And at 5, and it was like that all night. And at 5 a.m. they have to shut the doors. They can't they can't sell any more pizza.
Wow.
It's an amazing little spot here. And if you guys are familiar with the High Line, it's like right above us. So I think that once the weather gets a little warmer, we're really going to be busy here. I think it's going to be
what an amazing operation and thing you've got going. I mean, it's just incredible. Congratulations. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
So cool.
We try. Sometimes I think about man, we're basically a booth. We move around the city, but I think we're getting a lot more credit than maybe we need to. I don't know. I appreciate all of it. I only hope that we can, we are doing Portugal and the Portuguese community proud. So that's the objective, and it's exciting for me. It's an easy, I'm a sales guy, yes, but it's really an easy sell when it's something you're so passionate about, whether it's the food that you're making or the food you were growing up with, or just the fact that I could say yes. They walk in and say, "Are you Portuguese?" Yes, I am. Would you like to speak Portuguese? We can speak Portuguese as well. It just feels good to raise that flag and for people to think it's so cool.
Yeah, so, it is cool.
So have you, are there intentions or ambitions to try and, get them into the freezer section at grocery stores? Is that feasible?
We are right on par here. So let me give you the rundown of what the current priorities on my list, or the things that I'm trying to do or in the middle of working on. One of them is the collaboration with the Portuguese kids, which you just heard about, which I'm really excited about. Second, it's easy to open a place down here and just have it fail, and I don't want that to happen. So to mitigate that risk, we've proven the concept at Frankie Portugal, but I'm going to try. I'm going through the motions now of opening my first Joey Bats location in Ludlow back home, because I have access to construction and help, and my sisters and my mother can run the shop day to day.
Nice.
And that's where I'll go through. Right, that's where I'll go through the concept. It'll be my hub. So I wholesale to restaurants there, and I'd love to continue, eventually distributing to the eastern side. Fall River, New Bedford, Milford, and all those different communities, Providence. So I'm going to open that there. It'll be like my hub. It'll also be like a lab where my mother can experiment with other recipes that she can do, and then I'll see if I can scale it. That's that. And I am totally coincidentally and just started a conversation with the guys at Whole Foods, which is really exciting because it's a premium supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so I told the guy, I'm like, listen,
amazing.
I told the guy, if you let me put a bunch of these packages in your freezer, pick your busiest Whole Foods, I'll stand there and I'll give out samples, and I'll guarantee you we'll be selling them like crazy once they have a little taste of what it tastes like when it's warm. So there's that. Hopefully that happens.
Have you sent them samples already?
Not yet. No, this was purely just through a friend that kind of threw my name in the game. And these supermarkets are always looking for like the next trendy kind of thing that's getting hot on the market. And so that's how that conversation started. What was the other one that I was? We're also talking to Tap, which is obviously another exciting moment for me after the successful Passport to Portugal event with the Timeout and Tap Airlines collaboration.
Tap.
Tap
wow.
Airlines.
Oh, awesome.
So we're going to talk to them about some marketing initiatives they have for 2018. Maybe we can even get the Prestige in the planes. It's not
that
crazy
would
talk,
be
right?
perfect. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Wouldn't it be?
Awesome. That is awesome.
So these are the kind of the short list of items that I need to focus on right now. But come April, and I'm head down, festivals every weekend. Hopefully, as many Portuguese festivals as I can sign up for and be able to do myself, while maintaining the cafe and everything else too. So, or the multiple cafes, hopefully, because if it works in Ludlow, why can't I open one in New Bedford or Fall River or Milford
or California,
right? Or California. I want it to be very small. The inspiration comes from. Have you guys ever heard of Nata Lisboa?
Why have I?
It's another. So in Lisbon you have the big chains of Prestige. Prestige Belém. That's not even a chain. It's just one location. Manteigaria is probably the most popular and most loved pastel, but they also have Fábrica das Natas and Nata Lisboa. Nata Lisboa has their logo is all yellow, and they're the only ones I know of that are in multiple countries. Their packaging has like 7 different languages. So they're in like Dubai, probably in like Switzerland or whatever, because it's in Portuguese, English, French, German. So,
well, of course, I'm thinking very selfishly here for myself. And I'm like, okay, Portugalia, you need to be there.
I know Michael. Yeah, I know Michael. And a while back, we mentioned, he's like, yeah, when you get your package, maybe we can do like a taste testing. And I still want to do that. It's just all about like being able to manage my time, because it's just me and my
absolutely.
mom. So
and then, of course, the other thought I had here, oh my God, and this is right up Angela and I's thought process here all the time. Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've thought about that as well. I think that it's going to be trickier to convince American investors who don't have the passion or don't understand the passion, or maybe an American investor who's lived in Portugal, who's been there, come back and be like, oh my God, this stuff's amazing. But they're going to be more difficult to impress. The good thing is that I have plenty of friends who are always looking to. I've had people reach out to me. I have some very, very close friends in Lisbon who are going to be my, I'll call them my angel investors to help me get started with the cafe and a few other things.
Very nice.
And for me, it works out best because they've been there since the beginning, and they've known what I've been able to do in such a short amount of time, and they believe in what I'm trying to do. So it just makes everything that much easier, in regards to getting them to be on board.
Right.
I don't even think it's that crazy to think that I could be selling more than most of the bakeries in Portugal do in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
That's Portugal's small.
That is just amazing. And you know what? And I love it. This is the whole reason why we do this podcast. And that is just how we have these amazing success stories of Portuguese entrepreneurs out there that are doing it, they're promoting not only what they're doing and what they're selling, but they're promoting the Portuguese culture. And this is just really wonderful. We're just so proud of you. We're really, truly proud of you. Thank you.
Well, and when
it was.
When I mentioned California, I was actually thinking, just because you are more on the higher end and going after the non-Portuguese crowd as much, if not more, than the Portuguese crowd. I was thinking of places like, Los Gatos, or even, Palo Alto is still pretty big, but they have like really cute downtowns. It's pretty affluent area. I don't know how well you know California, but there's cities like that here in the Bay Area, certainly down in LA County, things like that. So, I mean, when you think of California, don't just think of San Jose or San Francisco or the big cities. I mean, of course that could work, but I mean, there are those the cities that are a lot more quaint and high end that I think would be perfect for
Carmel.
Yes,
Carmel.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be perfect for this.
Mhm.
Carmel would be perfect. Okay, anyone in Carmel who's listening to this, let's make it happen.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
All right.
Well, the good thing is that, just real, because the good thing is that every avenue I've tested has been successful, thankfully, whether it's online, it's at the wholesale, or it's at the street fairs and what have you. So I'm really happy with what we're doing, and I think that there's a lot of potential there to get. And it's not crazy to think that we might be having them available in California in the near future.
Well, in all of sharing all of this now, your mom, what is your mom's name?
My mother is Isabel Fernandes. She is the genius behind the.
Yeah, we got to talk about your mom now. We got to talk about your mom now. Where is your?
Going to get sappy.
Well, no, we need to, because you know what? We're only as good as those that are around us.
Hey, Maria, we should be like Barbara Walters, and our goal should be to get every guest to cry at some point.
I'm terrible with this stuff.
I'm kidding.
But
I'm terrible. I could not have done any of this. Yes, my mom is the genius behind the recipes, but not just that. She drives. I'm literally sitting in our van right now outside the cafe because she just got here. So she's restocking the cafe with the boblacha cups and the cerradura and the torta laranja and all that stuff. And then she's in there working so that I could come in here and take this call. She drives down every weekend from Ludlow, Mass. It's a 2.5-hour drive without traffic. Every weekend. She's been doing this since she was in Portugal for 6 weeks. And when that moment I did right before Maniola, I realized I needed her help. I called her to come back early from her vacation. And she's been with me every weekend, sometimes during the week.
Wow.
Since then.
Now, where is your family from? Where is your family from?
So my mother's family all resides basically in Western Massachusetts in Ludlow. My father's family all resides in New Bedford, actually. So I know New Bedford very well.
All right. Now, where did they originally come from? Where are they first generation here, or?
They're from Trás-os-Montes, so about an hour and a half northeast of Porto. My father is from a village called Teirezes, which is right outside the larger town or small city of Montalegre, which is right on the border of Spain. Like, you literally walk across the border of Spain there, or Galicia. And then my mother is about 20 minutes from there, and just outside the village is called Canedo, and it's just outside of a larger or small town called Portuguese. So I go there every year. I know the place like the back of my hand.
Oh, nice.
I love it there. But that's where they're from. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. And and so you were brought up in the Portuguese way, correct?
Yeah. I mean, Ludlow is a small town. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 30,000 people there. At the time, there was when I went to college at UMass Amherst, I think there was more faculty and students at UMass Amherst than there was, population of Ludlow. And it's made up predominantly of Portuguese and Polish immigrants. And it's a small town, so you basically know everybody. It's not like a big city like, Fall River, New Bedford have a lot of Portuguese, but it's also a big city compared to Ludlow, which is just a tiny little town. We do have a fantastic festa there, though. If you guys have never been, the difference between the Ludlow Festa and all the festas I've been to, and I've been to basically all of them from when I used to do the dance stuff and it's very authentic. I go to Newark. Newark is great. The food is delicious, but it is really just you walk in, you don't even really. It's just kind of, I don't know. It's not so authentic as it used to. Just like if you go to Little Italy, San Gennaro, there's not as many Italians as there used to be. In Ludlow, we do the Procissão de Velas that they do in Fatima.
Oh wow!
And that's probably the biggest draw on Sunday. That one day you'll have thousands, maybe 30,000-40,000 people with candles. Singing Ave Maria together, and they're carrying around the statue of Our Lady of Fatima. And it's just like a really intense moment, even if you're not religious, just to witness that. It's really great. So we have people that come from Canada, Virginia, California, from all over just for that one event on Sunday. And it's 4 days during Labor Day weekend. So it's the community is very, I spoke Portuguese before I spoke English there. That's the way it was there.
Yeah.
And in high school, I was able to take Portuguese for 4 years, where I was able to, learn how to better read and write and things like that.
That's wonderful. That is. So, yes. So thank you to Senora Isabel for,
right.
and the whole thing is I love it because being brought up Portuguese, there's that instillment. So what is of, being hard workers, doing this, doing that, what does your family think about all this?
Well, it's interesting. Initially, even till today, my dad is still, I think, traditionally the Portuguese are very conservative, and they, especially the ones that have moved over here, and they have factory jobs, or they want that nice steady, they want to make sure their families is cared for, or that they're all well. And my dad is kind of like, you're crazy quitting your job, blah, blah, blah. This is, this is not easy. And it's funny because he's been a small business owner literally forever. We have a butcher shop in our family that smokes chorizos, farineiras, alheiras, salty coins, and he delivers them to New Bedford and Fall River, Connecticut, and Long Island for like 30-something years now. And we used to have a bar, he had a cafe, and it's funny for him to it's almost like he doesn't want me to do it because he doesn't think it's a good thing for me to do. Like, what'd you go to college for? And blah, blah, blah. But it's like, this is way harder and more challenging.
Wow, imagine that.
Right. And then my mother's side is really completely different. Like, it's all like, yeah, go, just try it, do it, Yeah. And I was raised, more with my mom. And my parents split up when I was 15, and I lived with my sisters, and I moved into my grandmother's house, where we had 9 people living in a house with 3 bedrooms. I shared a bed with my uncle. I'm 6'2", 240, and my uncle is not that much shorter than me. So that queen size bed was tight.
Isn't that something? Oh, this is.
But at the same time, you just get used to, we're always together. We're always having lunch together, always having dinner together.
Yeah.
That's really the one thing I miss a lot from back home, is that experience, being around everybody all the time.
Yeah. Oh.
So you were always together. And so some of the questions we ask our guests are about, your first food memory and your favorite foods and things like that. So when you were living all together, would your mom do the cooking, or would you guys share the cooking? And what was like your kind of food memories from that time, or your food memory?
Interesting. If I go really far back, I don't remember my mom doing as much cooking because she ran the store by herself and my dad ran the bar. So I do remember when we moved in, my grandparents were always cooking. My grandfather was on disability, so he would cook for my grandmother. So she'd come back from the factory. She worked at Milton Bradley. She would get back, and then he would have, food ready for her, and then we'd all eat. All I remember was how they were able to feed so many people. And I don't mean small guys. We're, up in north of Portugal, I feel like a lot of Portuguese are known to be short. But my uncles and I were all like, I'm the biggest one, but we're all very much the same, similar in size. And so not the easiest guys to feed,
Yeah.
Like you say in Portuguese, mais mal manter burro pão blanc, Because I was eating all the time. My uncles were always eating. So I was always amazed with how we were able, my grandfather and my grandmother, and then eventually my mother, were able to feed all of us with such a small amount of food. And during those times, it was all my grandmother and my grandfather would cook for the daily lunches, because my mom would be working. She was loading and unloading planes at TWA and Delta.
Oh, wow.
Double shifts there. Yeah. And then it was later on when my grandparents were getting too old to do this. And my mom, now she, as you can imagine, she busted her back, loading and unloading those planes. So she became the matriarch, if that's the right word. Like, she's the one now that the glue in the family. So she's cooking for everybody every day. And then that's where the whole call me call it thing came. It was routine. We were always going over to eat. I was always taking pictures and posting them on Facebook, and people were like, "Oh my God, Joey, I gotta have this. Where can I have this?" And I'd be like, "I gotta come call me call it." So mom was always, first was grandparents, then it migrated to mom. It's almost like she took over those responsibilities to feed everybody. And when I think about the first, the foods that I remember as a kid, I think the thing we ate the most was pasta. It's because that's how you fed everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot. It fills you up. And
if my grandfather loved to gnaw on the bones of the beef bones and things like that. He'd take shaves of meat off of that. And if somebody ate steaks or pork or whatever the day before, the next day you chop it up and throw it into a masa. And, we love masa. To this day, my uncles, especially my Uncle Moose, Domingos, literally, he always wants to eat masa. And I think it's just because it was ingrained in him now.
Isn't that something? Yeah, but that would be the way. That would be the way to feed a crowd and to fill people up would be with a lot of masinga. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was the more, the non-fancy days. But when she knew people were coming over, she wouldn't hold back. It would be a big plate of, I remember one thing she made, I have a picture on Facebook of it, a huge plate of a travessa, of carne pork lanchiana, and then she covered it in shrimp as well, which is not typically in a lanchiana, but it was like, it's just unbelievable. Or, it's the stuff that she would whip up. I'm like, how are you doing this? How do you know how to do this? I got to set up a camera to monitor my mom's cooking. She doesn't really write down recipes, right? You just got to capture it in the moment.
No, they do not. No, it's it's just incredible when we think about our loved ones and growing up and what they fed us and what brings comfort to us and how they did it. I always, we talked about this before, with my mom, it was like, they had a small little kitchen. And my thought was, and it still is to this day, is how they fed so many people out of that tiny little kitchen. But they did it. And you just do. You just do what you have to do for your family. End of story. So one of your first memories is is eating the pasta with the sauces and all of that stuff. Now, if you had to have your mom make you a special dish for you, would that be it? You would want that for her to make for you? Or what?
No, there's one thing that I'm such a not picky eater. I literally eat everything. And I've always been known to wolf things down. I'm always the first one done at the table. And then I just go pass out on the couch.
Yeah.
The joke that my uncles always make fun of me about is because when my mom would always make steaks or something, or she'd always make something for me that didn't have bones, because I was too lazy to pick out the bones. I just wanted to shovel it in,
She wanted, for your safety, she had to debone it.
Right, yeah. So I love sardinhas, right? But I hated deboning, taking the bones out and things like that. Or the bacalhau. I love bacalhau, but usually she'd make bacalhau con natas because there'd be no bones in there.
Right.
So it's these little things that she was doing for me inside the monster. I mean,
that's
I would
a mother's love.
Stainless steel bowls.
Right.
Stainless steel bowls of cereal. Here's a memory. When I was in elementary school, because I had such a huge appetite, my mother stopped giving me money to go to buy food. So she knew the ladies that worked in the kitchen, and she basically said, just let him run a tab. Let him eat whatever he wants, and then at the end of the week, I'll pay for it. And it's not so bad. I would eat 3. I love the lunches. People made fun of the lunches. I was not high maintenance at all. Pizza, lasagna, chop suey, it's all going down the chute. And then I'd get 2 or 3 of the strawberry shortcakes. And the lady once even said, Joey, are you sure this is for you? So I took a bite out of it to prove to her that I'm going to eat this thing, It was like that.
Wow. Now, how tall are you again?
So, about 6'2.5", 200, 240. I was an ice hockey player, not a soccer player like most of my friends were.
You're an ice hockey player.
So you're burning it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I love to dance. That's one thing you guys don't know about me is my mother's family. My grandmother had her own rancho. She was in charge. It was for the Portuguese club back then. And I grew up in that. It was my mom at a very young age. I have pictures of her showing me how to do the curridinho and the batupé and stuff like that. And then I learned how to use the castañolas. And now I can do castañolas with my fingers, which is, I don't know how I learned how to do that. It just happened. But so yeah, over the years, I've always been the first one on the dance floor. And if you knew my mom's family, all my uncles, it's the same thing. We're all crazy for the music. So that was something that kind of got ingrained in me very, very early on. So yeah, burn all those calories.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we dance in the rancho out here as well, and our dances are from the ribatejo, which are super fast. Thank God the songs are short.
Yeah.
But I will never forget my first couple of practices when I first joined the group. I thought I was going to die. It's the best workout ever. So
right. I didn't even drink alcohol until I was 33, but because I would go to I used to crash weddings just to go in and dance. I'd put a tie on, I swear to God, I would go into the Portuguese club, but because it's a small town, you know everybody. They knew that I was really just there to dance. So I would go in after they served food, and I would dance. I used to travel around to go to different festas just to, because I love, you're picking up a Portuguese girl, you got to know how to dance Portuguese. That's the way it was.
Yes, it is.
And there was a band, Mili Quattro. Most of the guys are from Connecticut, but then my good friend Dave Costa, he is from Ludlow. I was like a roadie for them. I would go with them. I would help them set up and dismantle, but I just wanted to go because I know that they'd introduce me as their dance instructor. So then I would go and be able to dance with any of the girls
That's hilarious. I'm with you.
How it was back then.
I'm with you though, because in high school, my cousins and I, we actually would choose to go to the Portuguese hall and go to the dances there on weekends instead of the school dances, because if you went to the school dance, you were dancing in a circle with your girlfriends as opposed to like dancing with the boys. Where if you went to the Portuguese hall, you actually got to dance with partners and dance with the boys. And, there were always a couple of guys that were the best dancers, and everybody kind of fought to dance with them. Like, no, it's my turn. Because, they knew how to spin really well and everything. And I will even tell I will tell you, so when my husband and I first met, we were both young and a little arrogant at the time. I don't know, maybe we get more arrogant as we get older. I don't know, but I will never forget one of the first times we danced a Portuguese song on the dance floor together, and he spun me, and he was so impressed that I knew how to spin. And I was like, yes, all those years of dancing.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So I totally with you on the whole loving to dance thing. And to be honest, so I'm 41 now. I can't wear high heels anymore because of, just being old and feet issues. But
it's not easy.
But we used to wear like super high heels and dance all night. I don't know how we did it, but man, I will tell you, heels help you dance. They help you spin, and they actually help you.
I don't know how you do it either. Doing all that. So, one of the things that it's kind of, so moving to New York now, it's mostly Latin dancing I do, but I like I credit the fact that I can go out in salsa and merengue and bachata and cumbia and all that stuff because of what I learned dancing the Portuguese stuff. So like, uma marcha para nós is like the merengue, except the merengue uses a little more butt. It's a little more hippie. But one thing that they do that we do that they don't is they spin independently. And the Portuguese and the marcha, I would spin so fast. Some girls, sometimes their feet would lift off.
Yeah.
What do they call that? They lift off. So then when I came here and I was going to the Dominican clubs and they have merengue típico, which is a really fast merengue, I would just jump right in. This is like water for a fish.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, are you Dominican? I'm like, no, man, I just, Portuguese, we do a similar thing.
Okay. So hands down, you and I are ever at a festa together, we have to dance. Even if it's just once.
Has to happen.
We have to dance.
Has to happen.
And I will tell you, you may have to bend over because I'm only 5'2", so it might be a little challenging, but we'll make it happen. Now this is like, okay, I'm looking forward to having the natas, and then we got to have a dance. Okay.
That is Angela speaking, right?
Yes.
That is Angela speaking.
Angela, I had a technique where any fest I would go to, I'd always bring a really good female dance partner on purpose so that you could get out, show off, and then this way any girl would say yes if you asked them to dance. They're not going to be like, I don't know if this guy knows how to dance.
Yeah.
They're like, holy shit, I just saw this guy spinning like a top out there. Of course I'm
Yeah.
Those are my techniques.
We heard now it's not a secret anymore. It's out there. We've made it known.
You really had this whole dancing strategically attracting partners, and man, it's not very often.
You have to make it.
It's not very often you meet somebody, a guy especially, that loves to dance as much as you do. So that's awesome.
Right. And if you guys knew my mother's family, and if anybody you've asked back in town, they're going to tell you my mother had both her knees replaced. She's practically, her bones are like, she's had a herniated disc and everything. But I remember she replaced her knee, and like a week and a half later, she wanted to dance with me at one of the dances I was DJing back home. I'm like, are you kidding me? But she's like, no, the only one that hurts is the one that hasn't been replaced yet. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I remember having a cast when I was like 19, but I would still dance with a cast on. But then the doctor would get pissed at me because he's like, Joey, the bottom of the cast is soft. I know you've been walking or dancing. I'm like, I'm sorry, boss.
I can't keep the dancer off the floor, man.
Well, Guys, we have hit that hour mark.
Oh, we've blown. Yeah, we've blown past.
Yeah, we've passed
the hour mark already, guys. But so we're gonna have to bring this to a close. This has been wonderful. This has just been
really
wonderful.
been awesome. We're gonna have to have you on again.
Same here.
I think we could fill like hours and hours of.
Guys, I can talk. I'm a storyteller. I can tell you stories. I tell you stories about Portugal. I can tell you Portuguese stories all over the East Coast. I've been to different festivals. I have a lot of stories there. I can talk. That is for sure. So if you want to fill up another hour, we can definitely do that.
Well,
sounds great.
Yeah,
we definitely need to do that.
Yeah, keep us posted on where you are, and maybe because Maria and I have talked a lot about doing in-person podcast episodes, and when we go see people or go to events or things like that. So let's do that, and then people will add some video, and then we could dance on video. It'll be like an.
Yes,
I'm telling you, you're on the hook now.
Oh, yeah.
You're on the hook now.
Well, this has been awesome. Like Maria has said, we're so proud of you and just wish you all the best. And, let us know, as you get the deals with Whole Foods and all these other things so we can help promote and get the word out there. And then I want to go to Whole Foods and buy them, take a picture, because that's the one mistake I made.
I really appreciate that.
That's the one mistake I made in prepping for this podcast is that I didn't order any Joey Bat's natas, so I couldn't try them before we talked to you. So now I got to go order some. But no, it's been awesome. Kudos to you and your family, and give your mother a big, big hug for us. And it's amazing.
I will. Thank you very much. And if she was on this, she'd probably be crying because, that's I inherited that from her too. I've held back pretty well. I'm keeping this conversation going the right direction. Keep it dry.
You're just keeping the energy up.
Well. You did really well.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. And thanks to our listeners out there for sticking with us for the full hour and change, however long we've gone. We appreciate your time. And if you haven't subscribed, again, we say this every time, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. Hit that subscribe button. Get your friends and family to subscribe. Please, please, please write us a review on iTunes. That will help us to be discovered and gets us better rankings on iTunes. I know it's a little thing. You probably think it doesn't matter, but let me tell you, it really matters.
Does.
It really does. And so with that, and if you have suggestions, questions, please email us. We love to hear from send us emails. We love to hear from our listeners. And just thanks for the continued support. And we love doing this. We love the conversations and talking to new people, and we hope that you love it as well. So with that, we'll say it's a wrap, and
até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
Até a próxima.
Okay, tchau.
Okay. Muito obrigado, Tchau.
Nada.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for listening to our Portuguese Table podcast.
If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so on SoundCloud or iTunes.
And all episodes can be found on our website at www.ourportuguesetable.com.
You can also reach us at feedback@ourportuguesetable.com with comments, questions, or suggestions.
Até a próxima!